Good to go.
Great. I want to thank and welcome everybody to actually the first committee meeting at all of 2023. So happy New Year to everybody. But this is for the January 2023 meeting of the CB1's Transportation and Street Activity Permit Committee. I'm Betty Kay, the chair, joined by Jess Coleman, the co-chair. And now we have a new member of the staff because Lucian is gone from working with this committee, for those who weren't aware of it. Onej James will be the contact person in the office from now on. So if you want to go to the next slide, let me see if my speakers are here. Yes, they are. Thank you, because on the agenda, the first item is the update on the bus stops adjacent to South Battery Park City. So if you want to move Rick and Rick Bordone over to the panel.
Rick and Nick, you can unmute.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening. And Rick, if you have anything that you want to share, you can either do it yourself and Jess will hand that over to you, or you can give it over to Jess and he'll handle it.
Sure, I've actually got it right here so I can share it. Let me go ahead and do that real quick. Oh, let me share this.
Hi, Nick.
Hi, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Sorry for
Can you all see that?
Not the most flattering thing in the world.
Yeah, no, if you'd like to tell us a little bit of why we're talking about the bus stops, because
Yes,
especially those of us from Battery Park City are aware, but maybe not more in general.
I absolutely will. And thank you, Betty and team, for having us again. Happy New Year. Nick Bordone from the Battery Park City Committee. So just for a bit of context, I think this is relatively straightforward. Nonetheless, we wanted to make sure we came back to the community board as promised. Back in March, you recall Laura Gray, who's the construction manager for the South Battery Park City Resiliency Project, who I also think is on the phone, if we can perhaps move her over. We had updated the EPC committee back in March on kind of some construction, staging, and logistics for the South Battery Park City Resiliency Project. And we had committed to at the time to be back to the board with further details as we had them working with our partners at the MTA on any movements of any required movements of bus stops to facilitate the construction. We checked in again with the community board over the course of the past couple of weeks with an update on downtown connection stop and an MTA stop, the M20. And the direction was, yes, thanks so much for coming back. Let's get this back in front of Betty's committee by way of update so the committee can be fully apprised of some scheduled and necessary changes for that area. Not a ton, but enough that we wanted to make sure we came back to you as we committed to doing. So with that, I will hand it over to, we have both Rick Fogarty, who is our construction community liaison for the South Battery Park City Resiliency Project. Some of you have met him. More of you will going forward. And Laura Gray, as I said, who's the the overall construction manager for the project. So with that, we have a quick schematic. Betty, I saw another question you had asked just very briefly about future anticipated movements at the time, and I'll let Laura go into this a little bit more. I think for the moment, these are the only steps we are anticipating as we have them. As construction proceeds and additional work is done, there may be a need to do more, but as we have it at the moment, I believe this is the extent of what we're envisioning for shifting of bus stops. I'll let Laura clean that up or correct me if I'm wrong. But with that, Rick, do you wanted to just kind of take it quickly and go through the schematic briefly, if you might?
Sure, thanks, Nick. I appreciate it. Can everybody hear me okay?
We can.
Absolutely. So the graphic that I have in front of me, and I hope you can all see, the M20 stop right here at it's the Battery Place First Place stop. That's an MTA in Downtown Alliance. This stop is going to be relocated. At this time, we're still determining where it's going to be relocated. We're in conversation with MTA, and the holidays seem to have put some communication issues. So we're still waiting to hear exactly when and where that's going to be moved to. But this will be the first affected stop right here. The second stop is going to be south. This is the Battery Place and West Street stop right here at the very south. Let me scroll down a little. And then this one's going to be closed for the duration of the project. Let's see. Really, I think that's about the extent of what I have to kind of present to you here. I'm open to any questions you may have, Betty, or anybody that is on the committee.
Well, let me recognize Tammy Milsa first.
Hi, thank you so much, Rick, for being here. We'd love to see your camera on, you and Nick, as long as you're presenting and participating.
I understand. I'm trying to get my camera working right now. I'm sorry, I was presenting and I couldn't get it started. So,
could you? I see those notes are on the west side of Battery Place. Are there any anticipated changes to the east side of Battery Place?
there are no anticipated changes at this time.
And has the MTA approved these changes?
We're still in conversation with the MTA about this.
And what about DOT?
We have had conversation with DOT about this as well.
And are you aware of the letters that were done by the PTA from PSIS 276 about the buses and access needed for them?
I spoke with Terry, the principal at the school, shortly before the meeting, and there was no information on my end about the letters, but I did talk to her to inform her about the upcoming bus stop relocations.
So I'm pretty darn certain that Nick would have some copies of letters that were sent from years past regarding changes to the Downtown Alliance buses, and the need for obviously making sure that there's a stop near the school. So if you're eliminating the 2 stops on the west side, is there a guarantee that the stops will be, how are you handling traffic? Because that will then incur a larger amount of people who need to go southbound on that Downtown Alliance bus, needing to cross the street to get to the other side of the street from 276 at First Place in order to run up to the bus stop that is the one remaining bus stop on Battery Place. That is Battery in second.
Battery in third place.
Battery in third, yeah. So what kind of traffic management will you have in place to ensure, because now you've eliminated 2 southern stops on the bus line on the west side, which leaves 1 bus stop going southbound in Battery Park City of the connection. And where has the suggestion been for where the existing M20 will be relocated? Have they been made by your traffic study or any of your representations, anybody related with this project? Those 2 questions.
At this time, we have not removed the stop. The stop is possibly going to be relocated, but until we hear from the MTA, their final determination on that, we're not sure where it's going to be placed at yet. That's MTA's discretion. So we're waiting to hear back from that, and that would be contact at MTA who would need to be consulted for that. And I'm sorry, the second question was?
The question, when is this happening? Because none of these have dates on them, unless I missed it, and I apologize. And is there a possibility to leave the Downtown Alliance bus stop in place until the MTA relocates?
No, we don't have a date yet. We're still in conversation with the MTA. We're coming to the Transportation Committee to inform you guys before this happens. So we wanted to make sure that, and we had spoken about this in March to I think it was the Environmental Committee at that time, and it was brought to the Transportation Committee at this time. We've spoken with Lucian about it, so we've tried to be transparent about this, but.
And
yeah.
Rick, I apologize. It just needs to be a when. And the other question that I had, like an informative thing so the school knows,
Mhm.
because people go to work there, people ride the bus. It's a very popular bus route, the Downtown Alliance stop. And then for the M20, that is the only southern access. There's one other stop, I believe, in southern, south of West Thames on the M20. So
Yes.
if they are rerouting the entire line, we would like to know that. And when. Keys are always when. And then the question was, what mitigations are you offering at first place for pedestrian safety, knowing that there is not a crossing guard there at all times, but the construction project will be there at all times?
I can speak to about the time frame. Again, we are still in conversation with the MTA, so I do not have a time frame for you. But when I do find out, I will email the committee, and you will be the first to know about the time frame of the movement of the bus stop. Regarding the crossing guard, I can't speak to the crossing guard. Nick, do you have any details on? I know there's been some conversations with the school about the crossing guard.
So we have, hey there, it's Nick Spordone. We have had some conversations with Terry, and I had follow-ups with DOT and with the first precinct. I believe some of those conversations are still ongoing. Is Laura Gray on the phone? Laura, was she calling in?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, Laura, did you have anything on? I know it wasn't when work wasn't underway, but there were some mitigation strategies while work is occurring. Is that correct? Can you elucidate or clarify that for me?
Yeah, any construction vehicle that will be in the area will be flagged in and out of the job site.
Okay.
So the flaggers are the mitigation for the construction vehicles.
Right. And then the question about the crossing
Nick,
guard.
that's not pedestrian
Go ahead.
safety, that's for the vehicles.
Yep. The
Well, it
construction.
will, the flaggers will mitigate the pedestrians in the area. They will stop them and prevent them from crossing if there is a vehicle crossing that path. So that is a mitigation for the pedestrians.
And then the question, thank you, Laura, about crossing guards. I know that's something that is ongoing. We will continue our push with the community board to see what we can do in terms of getting more crossing guards on the site. We don't have crossing guards, but we will continue to push on DOT and school safety to see what we can do in terms of getting guards back there. I know it's been a question for some years now, with or without construction.
Nick, the private organizations like Goldman Sachs and others, and something that I know Allied has access to because they provide those services elsewhere, are pedestrian crossing managers. That is what they're called. Crossing guards are specifically tailored, obviously, to what crossing guards are. Has there been any conversation regarding the ability to hire through Allied pedestrian crossing managers for that intersection?
Not that I am aware of. I can check for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff, would you like to speak?
Yeah. So I went by this area today and I can see where the construction fences are. So I have a couple of questions in relation to both pedestrian passageway there as well as the impact on the bus stops. Is it safe to say that what's there now in terms of the available sidewalk is intended to be there throughout the project? Is that the delineated area where the fences are going to be?
No, and if we could zoom in a little bit on this, we have to reconstruct the entire area behind the curb line. I presented back in March about this. So the permanent DOB fence will be placed on the curb line, meaning that the pedestrians will be rooted into the street in the blue pathway.
Okay, and so it's that development that requires the movement of the bus stops, or is there also a construction gate issue in terms of interference with the bus stops?
There is a gate interference issue on the northern side. And then otherwise, it's really just the reconstruction, and we have, we have to do work in that area.
Okay. Well, I'd just like to add to what Tammy was saying, which is that the community does need a bus stop between roughly First Place and West Street. I mean, currently there are 2 southbound bus stops. And although we won't have any foot traffic to and from the park, there are residential buildings right across the street. And as Tammy noted, excuse me, the downtown connection itself is that is a popular line. I'm not as concerned about the M20 during that segment. I don't think there are that many people who get on the M20 at that point, since it ends a few blocks away, although I'm sure there are some M20 riders there. But the downtown connection, of course, goes all the way to the seaport from there. So I would urge a high priority that there be a location found for at least one replacement bus stop southbound in that general area. And that's it.
Thank you, Jeff. My thought was not necessarily people onboarding, but discharging to be able to may ride the M20 home from northern parts or get to the school commuting for work.
Good point. That's a good point.
Yeah, then I'd like to hear if there are any comments about, since the Esplanade has been kind of a little bit off the bus stops. Because again, as we move them, and it'll be interesting to get the answers about what the MTA is going to do. But when they get farther from one group, they get closer to another, so it'll be interesting. But the Esplanade, for instance, is for pedestrians. That's another route as well. So I'm glad Jeff brought up the pedestrians. Have there been any comments about the closure of the Esplanade by cyclists or walkers, that losing that access that they've had forever?
Betty, I don't recall having gotten any. Rick, have you gotten any to the project email?
I have not received any calls from anybody about pedestrian access via phone or via the project email.
Doesn't
Okay,
mean we won't, though, Betty. That's a good point. Well, we can track that as a particular broken out item.
well, I was
Yeah.
wondering too, how many of those people are now gone over to the sidewalk that is going to be closed? And as I know we've spoken, the other people haven't heard yet, when there is the revocable consent request that's going to come forward, that will give the dates as well as the closure of the street sidewalk on Battery Place. But again, that's going to be a concern.
Okay.
And Tammy, you had something to say?
Yeah, I did hear from some local constituents who were concerned about the closure behind the Esplanade. So there was also a note, though, that the back of the museum was opened, but uncertainty existed by people who were in 50 Battery who spoke with me about it as to whether or not the plans that had been presented by the BPCA were changed along the backside of the museum to leave what is open now as an existing, or will there, like this map, for example, does not show the construction gate at First Place and does not show that the back of the museum closed off as it is currently today. So, I mean, there seems to be a little bit of confusion on those two parts.
There's been no change to the ultimate closure of the backside of the museum.
It just hasn't happened yet.
Correct.
Okay. Going along with that, I wanted to point out to Tammy, since she's more active with the school itself, if there is any request to close down First Place, Second Place during school student departure and pickup times, which is what's done, for instance, with PS 150. It's limited to just an hour or so at each time of the day. But that can stop the movement of cars around and discourage parents who are driving around the school simply to pick up or drop off children and force them to go a little bit farther away, which would reduce their traffic in this very immediate block. So it's something the school should really think about what they want to do with that type of request in the future.
The school discourages cars anyway. I'm sure Nick has spoken. Principal Terry has been quite loud about cars and vehicles and bus paths.
Yep.
So,
But
Yeah.
this would
Yes.
stop it. So I'm saying make it a little bit more enforceable because you can say what you want and people are still going to do what they want.
there is a vehicle pickup requirement for the P94 school that is there, both by bus and small van. So having 0 cars is not actually, or 0 vehicles, I should call them, is not possible.
Okay.
Let's have, excuse me,
No, it's okay.
then let's have Eric and then Justine.
Yeah,
Any questions?
I'm sorry. I know I was late. What's the duration for the that you plan to take that area all the way to the curb? I missed that in the beginning. How long do you plan to have this barrier up that would close most of the sidewalk to pedestrians and eliminate the bus stop?
24 months.
24 months. Now, is work going right up to that area, or is all that area
Yes,
primarily for students?
it's entirely reconstructed.
Thank you.
Yes, then Justine?
So much. And yeah, I apologize too. I signed in a little bit late, but I was listening. So when you say closing the sidewalk, you're closing the sidewalk in front of the buildings? Is that true? In front of the residential buildings, 70 and 50 Battery Place?
No,
No.
no,
Okay.
you're not.
Explain
No,
to me
no,
what
no.
that means. Sorry. Yeah, I apologize.
It's okay.
Okay, so the sidewalk
Laura,
will
you
be
want to walk
open.
through that area there on the blue?
Yeah, 2
I don't know if you
seconds
can
worth.
see it, Justine, but we can try and zoom in a little, but it's just the blue, and this is a very high level sketch, but it's the blue, shaded area would be where we would have the pedestrians within a protected, barrier.
Okay.
In
and
in the roadway
street.
bed, yeah.
Right. So it's
it looks
basically
like,
making, I'm sorry, go ahead, Patty.
it looks like it's directly in front of the museum, heading all the way south down to the end of the park.
Correct.
Right, on the west side of Battery
Right, on the
Place.
west side,
Anything
so-
there is the museum, the southern end.
So west side of Battery Place. And the buildings the apartment buildings are on the east side of Battery Place? No.
No, they're
Yes.
not there. Well, but
They're
they're
not-
not in that area.
They're not even affected, is what your point is.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
And then as far as the bikes go, Betty, my question to you was, what is the issue? Because I know as someone myself, I bike and I ride, and I just now don't go anywhere near the east side because there's no easy, safe way to get there
Well,
that
and
I
that
can
has,
figure out.
that has been the question with the closure of the Esplanade as an option and the narrowing of Battery Place, putting a squeeze on it. That was the issue that came up about next to the Greenway Bikeway. And how many
Yes,
people are
that's
going
all
to be
you
pushed
have.
out to there? Yes.
Exactly. People will be pushed out to there, but then and I guess at this point, one as long as Pier A part is opened, that you can cut through, that's fine, but it's not going to last forever.
Well, that's why we want
All right.
constant updates.
Yeah, we need to know. Thank you.
Right, Tammy, please.
Nick and Rick, I like the rhyme as we go forward here. What
Thank you.
You're welcome. Can you please detail for us conversations that have been had with 1PP in regards to the run walks and how they will be facilitated through the neighborhood, specifically in terms of the AHA run, which goes through the neighborhood, and any other ones that utilize the sidewalks at all that have been permitted during the 24-month?
Sure. So I know we had I believe we had someone come from AHA back during the summer. I want to say, I think it was at Betty's committee. I may be mistaken on that. And then we had a conversation at the BPC committee meeting. I think it was a few months ago, where Nydia and Jamelia had presented. Nydia Blake, who's our permits event coordinator, you don't know Nydia, and Jamelia, who's our VP of administration. And what we had said was, as we got more requests in for these events, we could be back to the committee with details. As far as I know, we don't have any of those events yet scheduled or requests in, but I'm going to be in front of the BPC committee tomorrow with the updates through the next month as I have them. I can also follow up with Nydia and make sure that she is tracking that request. As of right now, I'm not aware of any requests that have come in for that specific area, but that is something certainly that we want to make sure we're working through with you to accommodate for any changes that might be necessitated due to the construction. I know it's a sensitive point, and we want to make sure that we are managing this as best we can. Some of the crowds are quite large, many of them are not. Nonetheless, it's kind of a new situation for everyone, so we want to make sure that everyone is right in, and we are getting you guys involved at the outset. Of course, I would caveat that all by saying ultimately, police department will make decisions on what streets to close. We'll continue working with them as well.
Nick, we'd
To
love
control the things that are within our control, but there are certain things that will not be. We want to make sure we're communicating effectively when they're not and when they are.
So we would love to have you partner with Community Board One in outreach to the street, the 1PP. It's not first
Yeah.
precinct, it's 1PP. That
Okay.
does any runs or walks over, that threshold. So, the
This is
ones with
SAPO you're talking about?
3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people and up go through 1PP. And they are not holistically aware of the details of a project like this. And what we would like to do, because of the overall impact, not only on the Battery Park City community, but on FIDI and Lower Manhattan overall, is have that discussion. So if you can
Okay.
partner with the community board, we would love to get that going this month.
Sure.
That would be, I'm sorry, I'm jumping without raising my hand, Betty, if that's okay. I just would like to reiterate that and remind you, Nick, that it not just runs and walks that affect this area, but every place in Battery Park City as you're getting stuff coming in, right? You're going to tell us everything. Kind of like we
Yeah.
used to do.
Yeah, we
Oh,
have a
we
list at the
track
bottom each
because-
month of our of the events. Yep.
Yeah. And you did come to the committee and express, or let us know what the big ones were and what you'd gotten in already, but we just want to keep it going. Thank you. And thanks, Betty.
Yes.
Sorry.
Of course. And Tammy, when you say 1PP, you mean SAPO, right? The Street Activities Permit Office?
Yes, that's SAPO.
Right, SAPO. Okay, got it.
Yeah, and want to let you know that in the past, these groups have come before this committee, which means they're already finalized with their path and their plans and everything else in the April meeting. So they must be doing pretty actively starting in January with the police planning out what they're going to allow.
That's a good point. Okay.
Nick, they usually, actually based on AHA timing, what they told us is in Q4, they go to NYPD for approval, which usually gets issued by January or February. Due to the nature of the construction project and the timing, I think it's important to get a hold of 1PP this month. So
Okay.
Changes and manifestations to do the best for public realm is what we look at. And when do you anticipate this fence to go up?
Laura, did you want to take that? You might have.
Yeah, we anticipate it will happen in the next 2 weeks that it will start. Material is going to be delivered. They have to do some survey and then they're going to get started.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, since I don't see any other hands up, I'm going to thank everyone for participating.
Marianne,
We do have one hand. Marianne.
hands, Marianne Braverman.
Marianne, sorry I missed you.
You can unmute now, Marianne.
I just popped it a second ago. You're gonna fence that now. Isn't this project on some sort of a hold?
So,
Has that been like taken care of from
Yeah, no,
Battery Park City's end of the view of
I-
things?
I can address that. Thanks, Marianne. So um, the installation of the permanent site fencing is a fairly involved process. As Laura had noted, it kind of takes a little bit to get in place. The what is on hold pursuant to the pending litigation is physical construction work in Wagner Park. What can proceed and what is going to be proceeding is the construction of the site fencing around it and construction related activities, not construction itself. So on the understanding that in as much as this is an involved process, we want to make sure that we are proceeding on the things that we can, so that when the project is able to pick up again, we have these things already in place.
So that's because you have Battery Park City Authority has no doubt, however this turns out, something will be done in that area, and it will require the removal of the sidewalk, access to that sidewalk.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is what we had said kind of publicly is that the South Battery Park City Resiliency Project was planned in full accordance with the law.
No, I'm not.
Look forward to continuing the urgent work of protecting the communities. So, yes, it takes a little bit to get the fencing up. We don't want to.
Okay, I'm just
we want to get the
wondering,
work done
Nick, if I could
as
just
quickly as-
pinpoint what I'm trying
Yeah.
to say. I'm just wondering if we're going to lose that space for 6 months, and then there will be certain changes to what happens in that area, and what's been removed from our access will be returned. Like, is it a waste of time and money to put that up? Just a question. I don't know the answer, but you know, we're losing a lot to lose that edge of the roadway, put people and bikes, move buses. And should that happen before it's clear what work is going to be done in that area? I'm just putting it out there. And I'm done with that comment. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Well, Nick, I'm going to ask, can that be done really before the revocable consent is completed?
He says yes.
I believe so, Laura, because that's a separate item. Is that right?
Yes, revocable consent has to do with permanent installations. It has nothing to do with temporary fencing.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yes, and Betty, as promised, when we have more particulars on that, we will again, if it pleases you all, which I assume it will, we'll be back to the committee on that as well to discuss what the particulars are.
Great. Well, then, thank you all for the presentation.
Thank you all. And I have a list of very helpful notes here. Tammy and Betty and Jeff and Justine, thank you. We'll work down these, and the note about getting in touch with SAPO and PD is especially pertinent. So thank you. We'll work on getting back in touch with them this month, and especially as it relates to AHA. That's very helpful.
Betty, I'll put my contact information to distribute amongst the board members in the community. So if anybody has any question, they can reach out to me at the information that's provided. So a project phone and the project email that they can reach me at. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that anyone has.
Great. Thank you, Rick. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. And let's go on to the second item. This hopefully will be a quick meeting.
Thank you, Betty. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. And hopefully we're going to get to wind this up today, but I want to make sure everyone has time to talk about the street code naming this, because now you got to see all of the guideline put together versus the piece by piece bit we've been dealing with for a while.
Street code naming.
And yeah, we can leave this and go back to, I'm going to hear what people want to say, but also be prepared to put up the document itself. That might be where the questions are.
Okay, just give me one sec.
Sure, no problem. I'm looking to see if there are any hands up first, because Mitch, if you'd like to speak.
Okay, let me just turn myself on. Yes, I just wanted to ask, I saw the email that Eric sent, and I just for my own clarification, was that the previous thing that was kind of like the general structure of the street co-naming and the things we're doing is kind of like now built off that, but then other things?
It's a rewriting of that period.
Okay, so then I just want to ask you, because I've been doing a lot of thinking and I'm sure I'm not going to get a consensus and I'm not going to hold up the meeting. But, when we were talking about the 50 years to the 20 years, and I was, going for like shorter amount of years, and then I kind of agreed, to make a compromise on the 20. And then I didn't see the amount, anything with the amount of years on the thing that Eric posted from the previous one. And the more I think about it, it keeps on going in the back of my head that a 40 or 50-year-old fireman that maybe saved hundreds of lives and then dies as a hero, and God forbid another 9/11 type situation. I'm just a total hypothetical. That I even feel like as a human being, I would want his mother or father to be alive when it happens, and it probably wouldn't happen in 20 years. That they would still be there. So that, like, after thinking about it, and seeing it wasn't in the original, and I'm sure I won't get a consensus on in this committee, I was thinking of if other people don't feel the same, I wanted to then bring up lessening of the 20 years in the full board, unless anybody, feels similar to me. I'm just thinking as a human thing where you would want like your of family members to still be alive if the person that dies, like that's being nominated for this event is already like a middle-aged or older person. So I just wanted to mention that. I don't know if anybody feels similar. And like I said, I'm not going to hold up the meeting or anything like that. But I've just been really thinking about that. And I did agree to the compromise before.
Thank you. And Mitch, because yeah, this is exactly the same conversation that we had back
Right.
when.
I guess when I didn't see the year thing listed in like, the thing that Eric had sent out.
No, that
It
was the
made me
point of
think
what
a
was
little more.
new. That's why it was discussed.
Right. No, I know. Okay. So
Let's do it.
I think like, does
I acknowledge.
anybody else like if I might want to just, because like I said, sometimes the full board doesn't agree with what the transportation committee does. And I was just thinking about that 20 years.
Okay.
I feel anyway, but I just wanted to mention that, Betty, but I
Yeah,
respect
no, let's
everything
hear what
else you're
Mitch
doing.
has to say, and then Tammy.
Thank you.
Mitch, I'm going to
Yes.
respectfully disagree.
Okay.
And I say that simply because I am wholly somebody who thinks that we shouldn't be doing street co-namings at all. In the world that we have today, there has to be better ways to honor people with a body of work versus, street co-namings. And when I travel the world, I like to take a map. I like to see where I'm going. I like the street name to be the street name. But that's
I don't disagree with that.
okay. So for me, 20, I think is whatever compromise we have in here is probably too short. And that may sound cold-hearted. I get that.
Yeah.
My dad was a World War II guy, so I understand about namings and stuff later and all the rest of it. But I'm good with where we are, and I just want to tell you kind of where I'm at. So sorry.
Okay, so you're basically against it in principle as opposed to, so there's other, okay, no problem. Like I said, I'm not gonna, I'm not trying to have it.
The work that this committee did was really amazing. And if
I agree.
It's a labor of love that no one loves to do on this topic. So I appreciate
It just got me thinking more because like after I read the original
I
thing.
think you can think about it until end of days, and it's a guideline.
Okay. Oh yeah, like no. We agree to disagree, but in pleasantly. But thank you.
Great, and let's hear from Eric.
Yeah, I think 20 years is excessive. I mean, unless the goal is to really eliminate co-naming requests, then that would accomplish many of them. I think 5 years is reasonable. You don't want something to be knee-jerk just you do want some quiet or some time in between a person's death and then submitting the co-naming request. I think 5 years is more reasonable. I mean, 20 years, that's a generation.
2 generations.
And co-naming, it does not, in my opinion, it doesn't confuse anyone in terms of street names. I mean, I went to 42nd Street. I think it was Jimmy Breslin. on 42nd Street. It confused no one. It adds some character to the neighborhood, and it's an honorific, but I don't see what the harm is, considering we only get 1 or 2 requests per year.
Thanks, Eric. I can see no one's changed their position, and I think that's Tammy's point, is that people have a position and it's unlikely to change. But Adetta and then Justine.
Yeah, I mean, we started at 50 with the new idea for the new regulation, and we already brought it down to 20, and we already had a thorough discussion, and Tammy made some great points. So I'm happy with where it is. It's already a compromise.
Thank you. And that's accurate. Justine?
Yeah, no, thank you. And I appreciate all the work that you guys have done on this, but I guess I'm in the ballpark of Eric, where 5 years to 10 years is better. But I guess I have the same approach that, if it was Mitch who spoke, I couldn't remember, but I'm more of that, where you kind of want people who are surviving the person to be appreciating it. And the longer you go, the less likely that's going to happen. And part of it is you're giving credit and giving some acknowledgement to whatever contribution the person made to the neighborhood, whatever else. And that's what I think. That doesn't mean that anybody has to agree with me. You know, I think everybody's, as you just pointed out, Betty and Tammy said, and Detta, everybody has their own position on what they feel is appropriate. And to me, 50 years was wow, no. And 20 is too long too. So that's it. And that's all we got. Thank you.
Yeah, and that sums it up very well. There were those who say this is sentimentality to somebody that was a nice person who passed away in the district, and let's do it while their family members are all still alive. And others saying, wait a minute, this is a forever non-ending thing. Why are we picking something that is going to be of no importance in a very short period of time? So let's make a balance and pick 20 years and say, if their contributions still add up, that people care in 20 years, they're worth considering. If it's less than 20 years, they're already forgotten. What's the importance of the coding?
That's a valid point, Betty. I guess it's just like that's a valid point. And then if it is valid, you would want their mother or father to still be alive. So it's like, it's a tough scale, but I understand what you're saying, Betty.
Yeah, it's saying this is not really for mom and dad. This is really for the community. To
No, I know
recognize
that.
people with contributions.
But like what Justine said, it's anyway. Nobody's
you
going
know
to choose their
what,
position
Mitch?
right now. So,
Mitch,
yes.
I'll use Anthony Notaro as an example, right?
Okay, sure.
His parents are long gone. It's not about his parents, it's about his legacy. And it's about legacy in the generations beyond.
I
Right?
hear you, Tammy, but in 20 years, no one's going to know who he was. 20 years ago, who was
And
the
why
chair?
and perfectly why I wouldn't name a street after him. So thank you for making my point.
Yep.
And Tammy, in that case, in that
There's no-
specific case,
yeah.
you're right. But
Yeah.
that's why I'd rather have it on a case by case basis. But like I said, we're not going to change anybody's mind right now. But I guess I just, my
I
heart,
think
like,
even,
okay.
no,
You can
because I agree
continue, I'm
with you,
sorry.
Mitch. And I think to me, a community doesn't last necessarily, especially in the New York that we're in now, where people can't afford to stay in their homes more than a year. You're not helping the community. You're not helping, or you're not giving, there is no community there. You'll never name a street, but maybe that's your goal. To me, I think there's an honorific there, but that's all. It's sentimental.
Yes, and that's what we also, and I hope people appreciate it in this, that it does give other options that the community board does push people to consider to have honors within the district other than co-naming, which is a very political process. But Jess,
Yes, and
I want to
that's fair.
recognize you to speak. Jess?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I don't want to be repetitive. I just want to say that these are just guidelines, and there's a category here that specifically says the board can consider on a case by case basis someone who doesn't fit the guidelines perfectly. So, yeah, I don't think we should belabor this too much. If there's an outlier case, the board can consider it.
Oh, can I ask Jess one question? Because I actually agree with Jess. So with the 20 years, then like if there's a special thing, so the 20 years is not black and white, it's just a recommendation? Is that what you mean, Jess?
No, I wouldn't say it's just a recommendation, but like
Because I can go along with that.
yeah, you do have to be within, and Betty, correct me if I'm wrong, like you do have to be within one of these categories, but
Or other, yes.
yeah, and so yeah, you have to choose the other category, and then the board would consider it under
Okay.
that category. So I mean, it's well,
So
it's not
so
clear
that would
cut, but
that
they're
would
guidelines.
then then supersede like the 20-year thing if there was an other like a special case. Okay, okay, at least that's something. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Sure, and Eric, is your hand up again?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
I noticed in this version, there's a statement saying that this will be considered on a semi-annual basis. So that means it would only be every 6 months that a co-naming request would be accepted, right?
That was taken, that is not a change in this document from the old one. But yes, in general, it appears that over history, they've kind of blocked together times so that if someone asks the office, they'll say, here's the upcoming time. We look at them a couple times a year. We don't look at them potentially at every meeting.
Okay, because it wasn't in the 2019 version, so.
It came from somewhere because that's not my idea.
I mean, this is just another way to discourage people. That's all. That's what I see here.
In the past, it hasn't because well, now look, we've put off a year and I expect people to come forward. We're delayed by this year, but I've looked through history and there were other times where there were blocks of time where there were moratoriums placed on new requests. So I don't think twice a year, as long as people know when it's coming up, will necessarily be this discouraging point. But we'll find out and we can ask Onej in the office to kind of track if they find people dropping out for that reason. But I don't recall that being discussed and I did not add that, so it must be in a previous document. And Carrie?
I think there's a little bit of confusion on the individual category. So I believe we talked about 1, 2, and 3. Those are 3 criteria, but within number 2, it's supposed to be or, not and or. So it's all those 3 criteria, 20 years, plus the great significance, plus the close association with the block and corner. So that was supposed to be and 1, 2, and 3. But then within number 2, great significance, a key event of historical note, or brought about significant changes through 20 or more years.
Yes, you're right. In item 2, there's an option there. We're not going to exclude people if they did both, but they can be an or, do just one of those 2 things.
Yes, and that's sort of so that it's not confusing that they have to meet 2 of those criteria within number 2. Thank you, Jess.
Okay.
I don't see any other hands up. I find that hard to believe.
20 or more. Oh,
Somebody is speaking. Oh, Marianne? Can you unmute yourself?
yep. I just see another typo in that number 2. Shouldn't it be through their 20 or more years instead of 20 of? Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Marianne. Okay, is that everybody with a comment or concern? Because then we'll move on to what the resolution, again, there has to be a resolution to accept or not accept, depending how the resolution goes, this particular document. So are people ready to move on to that?
I make a motion to accept this into resolution.
Great, and if you want to go back to the slides. Thank you, Jess, for doing all the hard work. The suggested ending of the resolution is that we support the attached revised street co-naming guidelines for our district, because again, that's all we can do it for. And thanking our council member, Christopher Marte, for his patience, because remember, we asked him to please wait, but we took time off to update our guidelines. So thanking him. It's a pretty simple, straightforward resolution. So people ready to vote? And Onesh, would you like to hold a vote?
Sure.
I'll second that call to a vote, Betty, for you.
Great. Well, since we have everything in line then, Onesh, if you'd like to just run the vote.
Okay, sure. Are there any abstentions? Anyone opposed? Anyone recused?
I oppose it.
I'm sorry, who?
Eric,
you.
Oh, Eric? Okay. Anyone opposed? Anyone else opposed?
I'm going to add to an abstention, Mitch,
Okay.
only on that one little point. Everything else is great.
Anyone else? Abstentions? Okay. Motion passed.
And there were no recusals. I just want to clarify that because there shouldn't be.
No recusals, right?
Great.
Okay, good. Motion passed.
Thank you, everybody. Then that was almost a year of pretty hard work. So thank you all. And news, I took the opportunity to put together, there's a lot of stuff that's been going on. One, to remind people that you should check out the NYC, the DOT's tweets, because they announce a lot of things there, as do other departments. Anyway, we have a new Center Street, Chambers Street sign on the FDR Drive. Next. This one to let people know there's going to be some maintenance work done on Pearl Street ramp to the Brooklyn Bridge. And so there are going to be over nighttime closures on the ramp on the 5th and the 6th of this month. So coming up. And again, it is only 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. It is not it's not a 24-hour thing, but nevertheless, be aware and let people know. This one, as far as the Lafayette Street bike lane, yes, there have been tweets recently, people talking about the need to have there needs to be work done. So we have to keep an eye on that to make sure it gets completed. Paint season is over, so I don't know how much is going to happen, but nevertheless, people know. As far as the Staten Island ferry that went on fire, yes, it did. And those things again are announced, and it was limited, and that ferry, it appears to still be functioning. Next. To remind people too, with severe weather, however that's placed, they do put a halt on open restaurant dining, both on the sidewalk and in the roadway. So again, if anyone's ever wondering about that, you can always go to social media and find out if your restaurants are open or not open, because they do close under certain weather conditions. And it'll be interesting to see as snow falls, this could be more and more of an issue to keep on top of. Next one, announcing a successfully made Vision Zero safety improvements. However, as positive as this looks, the number of pedestrian deaths is remarkably high this year, and it's really pretty sad. But anyway, keep after that. Again, the mayor has also made an announcement about public safety, so it appears that Vision Zero seems to be a little bit on his priority. Interesting, low enforcement, education, and street redesign is the order that he gives, which is exactly the opposite of what the borough president gives as his priorities for Manhattan. But anyway, those are the three things that have to be looked at whenever we look at any of the projects. Keep in mind what the DOT and the various elected officials are concerned about. The announcement about the 24/7 speed camera operations, and a little bit of the numbers. It has been reducing speed, they report, by up to 25% in the camera zone areas. In August, you can see the number of speeding ticket violations dropped dramatically going into November. So hopefully they are changing behavior. That would be good. But for those who still think that is just a way of collecting money, I thought you might want to see this kind of slap back from, this is from a state official, and they're the ones that control a lot of the cameras. This is, if you're traveling, keep in mind, you get to go 11 miles per hour over the speed limit before you're considered speeding. So again, you're not going to get much sympathy from the state senator. If you call that a gotcha moment, he's saying no. And we're expecting more legislation going on in the state. So keep in mind, education was one of the other issues for Vision Zero. So DOT released New York City alcohol is involved in 1 out of 10 fatal crashes. But look at the numbers that are going up. It's pretty horrific. The 2022 numbers aren't available yet. So they're still talking 2021, and 2022 numbers in general have been worse. But 43 of the traffic fatalities were directly related to DWI, which was a 60% increase over the 3-year average. And the next one is part of their educational program. And that is, if you're driving impaired, you're 4 times more likely to be in a crash. And keep in mind, I told you, state legislation is on top of this. The research is showing them, and they're looking at changing the DWI threshold from a blood alcohol level of 0.08 to 0.05. So we'll see how that goes in Albany. And this is kind of interesting. The New York City mayor has put forward, and this link is actually an important one. He has started a visioning process for reimagining Fifth Avenue from Bryant Park to 42nd Street. Why do I care? That's not in our district. I bring that up because they want to make it a safer, less congested, pedestrian-centered boulevard. Keep in mind, this sounds a lot like the asks that we've been making in FIDI. And yes, Patrick, this is directed at you. So we do want to keep an eye on, and I have put a request in to find out what happened to the pedestrian priority project that DOT was working on in FIDI, since it was supposed to be in the fall. So no, we are on top of trying to keep track of what happened to that and how do we get it back on track.
Betty, you still have a hand up, so before you go to the next
Yeah,
slide.
Carrie.
You can wait till the end of news. I was just going to ask for an update on open restaurants generally, whether, there was supposed to be some redesign work happening with, the sheds are just getting in worse and worse repair. And I know some restaurant owners are waiting for the new design criteria before they invest any more money in their sheds. So if anybody had any updates on that process, I'd be grateful.
Tammy, you can back me up, but I believe it's still actually in court right now. And so the DOT can't do anything, or they certainly can't make any announcements until some legal decisions are made.
That is correct. And there's also dialogue as to whether or not that will stay with DOT or move to DCWP or another similar agency.
Thank you.
Yeah, so no real answers, but clarity that there are no answers. But so we will keep after the FIDI project with this in mind. That's why this particular notification tweet was put in here. Next.
Eric has something to say.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to mention that with the speed cameras, it's actually anything over 10. It's not 11 or more, anything over 10 miles per hour, where you get
Which makes it 11 or more.
I thought you said anything more than 11. Okay.
No, wait, the clarification is important, but yeah, no, it's 11 or more, it counts as speeding. Oh, this one's kind of an interesting one. This is a picture that was put up by the DOT. And if you notice, this was the way the crosswalks used to be done. And this was considered an update at the time by shortening the pedestrian route. But if you go to the next one, because you know where the pedestrians are, they're not on the crosswalk. If you go to the next one, this is actually what they've put in that same location now. And so if you can think of intersections in our district where this could be helpful, a little bit, they are now looking at making bigger crosswalks to kind of capture where all the pedestrian natural paths are within an intersection.
Chambers and Greenwich would be one where you've got people coming from the east side to try and get to 234. You've got the Stuyvesant kids coming from the train and crossing. And anyway, there's just a lot of congestion there for them to do an amble scramble light would be probably worthwhile.
You know, we can, Betty, we should gather this information
Yes.
by Google form with everybody. So we can really, really, really make sure that we do a holistic approach to the community and neighborhood. I think that there's a lot of places in Lower Manhattan that can really use something like this, and it would be a boon to pedestrian safety.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm glad you had, that's a good idea. So we need to create something through the office so that people can contribute. Well, I was gonna ask Carrie to please send me an email because I can't remember all these things. But anything that you see incidentally for any of you, it would be nice to have a place where you can put it in. Because it does strike you when you hit one of those intersections.
Marianne has her hand up, but Onej, I think if you can make a Google form and post it with a picture of the 2 slides that Betty has, that would be amazing. And we can collect data over Q1 and make suggestions in Q2.
Well, in terms of other suggestions as well, because the next one's kind of come up with it. Marianne, you can speak first before we move on. Can we unmute Marianne? Or just plain move her to the panel.
There we go.
Good. I'm wondering if this type of crosswalk change can be done in Battery Park City. Does the DOT control that? Thanks for the nod, Tammy. Good. Okay, thanks. Bye.
But by
Thank
the way,
you.
Marianne and Barbara, I will just note for the record that community board member applications are open. Hint, hint.
That is very true. And that's a reminder to anybody who needs to renew for this year as well. And again, they made a lot of announcements to the DOT. They installed more accessible pedestrian signals. But if you looked around our district, there are very few of them. And I wanted to bring this up, and Anesh, we're giving you lots of things to do. In fact, when we found out, Lucian can remind you, but there were some requests around the Holland Tunnel, and there is in fact a low vision center, a nonprofit that is specifically located just north of Canal Street. And so they were talking about the problems of crossing Canal Street and coming into our district. So one of the criteria for selecting the locations for these accessible pedestrian signals, or where the various organizations and other groups of people with low vision are. So if we could get some information about that organization and maybe get some insights from them, that would be helpful.
Okay. I've got that.
Thanks. And like I said, ask Lucian, because I remember him having a conversation with them. As far as this, there are, for those who are questioning why the plates are different, and people don't probably look at them as much as I do on the pedestrian ramps, but they are changing them a bit. They have been red around, but they're adding enhancements again and trying to upgrade them. They're red or white in special districts. And again, it's to be more detectable for people with visual disabilities. Don't be distracted by the fact that they're on a pedestrian ramp. For those of us like me who have physical disabilities, they need to give cues to people who have visual problems. Hence the bumps and evidently colors as well. Carrie?
I've noticed, that, older people with walkers have a really hard time negotiating the bumps. And so I wonder if, is there better technology or some sort of, it'd just be curious to know if there's better technology to accommodate both the visually impaired and those with, mobility issues.
Yes, no, thank you. And we should look at that. In fact, I was over by the Brookdale Center, since it's not too far from where I live. And there was a woman coming back from grocery shopping, probably at Whole Foods, and she had come down Warren Street. And she was trying so hard to go up the pedestrian ramp to get to the Brookdale Center. And her wheels just kept hitting it, and she was bounced back into the street. And it took her 8 or 9 attempts to be able to get up the ramp and to get onto the sidewalk on the west side of North End Avenue.
North End Avenue.
So yes, we need to revisit that because I've brought it up too, where it stops my scooter even. So next, this for the artists, because I am so not artistically able, but these are really so beautiful. For those who didn't realize, this is posted by the New York City Cultural Affairs, but in fact, the DOT usually runs asphalt art activation programs.
Yeah.
And so this was interesting that this was last year, obviously, but they gave up to $20,000 for, depending on the scale of the project site. And you can go online to look for those who are willing to do some of this work or have ideas for getting it done. And I think the next one is a follow-up for more of what's been done. Yeah,
Nice.
I'd be really happy to have some of the pedestrian spaces that are out there, beautifully, colorfully done, because it draws attention to don't park here as well as beautifies the area. So another thing we should look into more. Finally, this isn't finally, but another thing that's kind of interesting is this is a scooter project from the Bronx, and it is only in the Bronx. Notice this scooter versus being the stand-up sort of scooters, electric scooters, these actually are sit-down that are for people who have movement disabilities or limitations for the elderly.
Betty, where in I'm on my phone, so I can't really see. What part of the Bronx is this?
East Bronx, says so.
No, I know, but what? Okay, just what?
Yes, we think he can't see it. In November, they released a report highlighting the success of the city's shared e-scooter pilot in the East Bronx. The pilot was first launched in 2021 and has logged 1.4 million rides with no fatalities and few serious injuries. And interesting, because I also read an article today talking about these e-scooters, in fact, are entering a whole zone of difficulties and challenges. LA is considering getting rid of them, and that was a big one. And Paris is also having its own challenges and looking to redo them. So this whole issue of e-scooters in general, it seems to be in flux right now and will be followed. Tammy?
It's kind of interesting because I think we tend to share a lot of our streetscape issues with more of old world Europe than we do places like the Bronx necessarily, or Jersey City, which is very hot on scooters, as people can probably know. So I'm curious to see how this plays out, simply because I do think that there's such an extraordinary need in our district to provide as many forms of transportation, but have a place for it all, have enforcement for it all, and maybe learn some better lessons that we're not getting to yet in New York City. The rise of scooters in Hudson River Park Trust has caused major issues. It's a discussion on the safety committee practically monthly. Every time we meet as an advisory council, there are concerns about safety crossing in and out of the park, the fact that they run through the park, they're not supposed to, things like that. So yeah, some careful consideration and guidelines would be great to, I think, recommend or have the city come up with before there's massive amounts of expansion and you can't take it back. We already have Revels that are driven literally up the Esplanade and through the parks. So that's something that I think that we can be proactive as to have a conversation to make it so that there is a pleasant experience for people, on our streets versus a, competitive dodge where you got to go. And then
what I will do is send you a copy of one of the articles that's out talking about some of the various cities. You can everybody on the committee can learn what some of these issues are coming from other cities.
Exactly. And then on a positive note, I don't know if anybody has seen, there was also a build out on the corner of Liberty and West. There's a quote unquote sort of speed bump that comes diagonal from the crosswalk into the intersection and an outcrop of a painting, which I can simply assume is designed to protect the pedestrians from the cars that are turning right to take a wider loop which is a lovely, lovely thought. I really look forward to the
Yeah.
to the day that they gave it a little bit better consideration when the plow comes through. I'll leave it at that. But we'll see what happens by the end of winter.
Great. Well, thank you. Let's have Cody and then Mitch.
It was just a thought on the scooters, that these are the foot scooters, but in cities like Austin and southern cities that I've been to recently, the scooters just get left on the sidewalks. So there's sort of like this clutter. So that's something that if there's an expansion of scooters, those types of scooters in New York City, that there should be, get ahead of that before it happens, because they do, they pile up at intersections. It's quite a sight.
Thank you. And in fact, the DOT did in New York City did consider that when they rolled out this pilot in the Bronx. So a lot of that was already factored in
Oh, good.
with having corrals and other sorts of things.
Right. Designated places to leave them.
Mitch?
Okay, I guess one comment. I guess many of us has read. I guess one of the other problems is the the batteries, where there's been unfortunately some fires indirectly or directly related to them, and I guess that's another thing that they're looking at. And then I guess indirectly related to this, on a cute tidbit, Tammy, you were talking about the Bronx, not the street configuration is more from Lower Manhattan. One thing I learned a long time ago was that the Grand Concourse was designed after the Champs. I always mispronounce it. Champs-Élysées.
Champs-Élysées.
Right, and I actually was told that by the old Bronx Borough President Fernando Ferrer in another lifetime, and but even though it has no relevance to the conversation now, I just wanted to bring that up.
Well, Mitch, I will get back to your 1 point soon, but in a
Yes.
later photo. But Mitch, I'm sorry, Mimi.
Yeah, in regards to the scooters, specifically the scooters in Austin, those are maintained by just like people that have large vans. They like pick up the scooters and then they charge them essentially at their house, and then they put them back out in the street. How are these scooters going to be charged? Do we know?
E-bikes get charged.
I forget how they do it. Because I think, well, these are run by VO, so it's not the same as Lyft, where they do go around and pick up and charge. I'd have to check to see what they do, but again, this pilot is only in the Bronx.
Yeah,
And so the ones in Manhattan are really all run by, and there are a number of them in my building, privately owned, which is its own problem, because then you get into the equity issues of, it's nice who can afford them and who can't. So right now, it's not a discussion for Manhattan. It is just individually owned scooters, and they're stand-up scooters.
And do we have, wasn't there some sort of car share situation that we were going to discuss?
They haven't installed the signs yet. So again, we don't have them, and we can't get data until they are in place.
Okay, yeah, because we had Car2Go in Brooklyn, DC, Denver, Austin for a long time, and they didn't have designated parking spots in many of the cities. So I'm curious about, the how and the why with this new car share.
Yeah, we'll find out. In Chicago, they had them out on the street as well as in parking garages. Here, they've been in parking garages, and they're trialing a pilot with some out on the street.
Okay.
But like I said, it is something that needs to be followed, but it needs to get started first. But so if anyone is in the locations, keep an eye out for the signs and let me know if you see them before I do, so we kind of know when it really starts in our district. That'd be helpful. Thank you.
Can you remind us of those locations? Sorry for interrupting.
There are 2 in Tribeca, and I'm a lot cloudier on those.
Actually, I think we should have Onej circulate it to the full board so they can take a look, because it's I hear what's being asked. I think it's a good thing to have multiple eyeballs on that.
Yes, and that was Carrie. I can send you the slides from last month, which gives the actual pictures that the DOT has you can see the exact locations.
I probably have that downloaded, so that's okay. I'll go back to last month's file.
Okay, go back, because I got those pictures from the DOT and they did a line and they don't sound like the addresses given in the letter, because usually they're around the corner. So those photos will give you a very accurate location of where the signs should be for the spaces. Okay, next. Oh, yes, this kind of goes back to Mitch's comment. When you asked about the battery fires, now keep in mind, my scooters use lithium ion batteries. I've used them for over a decade, as long as I have been needing to use a scooter for at least outside, now inside and outside. But you can see the one photo on the right is taken in Manhattan in Hudson River Park. But Uni, and if you remember Uni with its pods for the secured parking for bicycles and scooters, is now going into a new venture, very capitalistic group, great for the bicycle community. And they are starting to find places where you can store your batteries and recharge batteries out and about. Again, because it is going to become more and more aware that places aren't going to allow them to be charged, or people need them charged while they're on the fly, such as they do a lot of moving around and they need to be able to stop and rest, but while they're doing that, charge their battery. So this is like the answer to the gas station for all the e-devices. It's coming. Next, this is kind of interesting, and I know we're not the environmental committee, but since it's the streets, and I found this fascinating to see from the DOT, did you know what happens to our roads? I was horrified when they milled my road and I came back and it was all chopped up. Hadn't really thought about where all the tarmac goes, but in fact, 41% of it now is recycled. I mean, 41% of what is laid down on the road is recycled asphalt from other roads that have been torn up in New York City. And it is a plant in Brooklyn that creates this tarmac mix for streets that have to be repaved in Brooklyn and Manhattan. So if you're wondering where all those big trucks go when they take up all the milling, chopped up stuff on your streets, they go to Brooklyn, the Hamilton Avenue asphalt plant, and it gets remixed. And as you can see, it's 1,150 lane miles citywide. So it's quite a bit of asphalt gets laid down and torn up each year. Next, talking about asphalt, what they're doing in Staten Island, and it started in September, they're piloting the use of recycled plastic in their asphalt as a use of the additive derived of plastic waste being such a problem. It's a promising technology, and so this will be another interesting thing to look at. And I know it might come like this through tweets, but actually belongs more in the environmental committee to be looked at.
Betty, can I mention something about that? Because that's fantastic.
Please.
I actually, oh man, I forgot. I think Diana, when she was, on working for the board, there were some articles when I was in Thailand a few years ago. There were some articles in the English language newspaper where in some rural areas in India and Thailand, where the companies, since plastic is will last for 1,000 years, and why it's just still in the oceans, so they were using it exactly like you said, building roads. It absorbed water better. It kept the it was less flooding in these areas, and the concrete, I think it was around 15 or 20 or 25% plastic with 70-80% cement, and it did wonders for those neighborhoods in flood reduction and having the roads last longer. So besides Staten Island, it's been going on in Asia and a few countries.
Great, and thank you, Mitch, for bringing up, because I was going to say my question about this, because it's not addressed here, and I'd like environmental to look into it, is what is the permeability factor?
Yeah, I something, I wonder, I got to see if I can find the articles, because I read about it, like in the Bangkok Daily, like the English language newspaper, and it just stuck out since I was on the community board. So you start to notice things, and they were using it, and because of the plastic mixed in with the cement, it absorbed rainfall better to mitigate some of the flooding that was going on in these rural areas, minus a tsunami, and
well, that's why the DOT that's why the DOT could answer very specifically for this sort of mix that they are using. So yeah, Tammy, I hope you're on it. Thank you for confirming that. Next, for these other weird things, Lincoln Wrestler, who is just deals with elected officials just north of us. But anyway, eliminating the non-essential helicopter travel in New York City helipads. Interesting because it's a response to somebody who tweeted about they're feeling the least necessary way of burning carbon ever conceived. And in fact, it talks about the flights from the FIDI to the Hamptons. And so again, we'll look at the gas guzzling helicopters, but in fact, to let us know that Chris Marte is one of the co-sponsors of this bill, and they are up to 24 co-sponsors, which is approaching half. So I expect this piece of legislation to be moving forward in City Council in the not too distant future as well.
The only
Yeah.
thing I want to caution people, Betty, is that heliport is not leaving. It is not going away. It would never be 100% closed. As told to us, it is an issue of national security. So that our goals to reduce the amount of use and abuse that we have from that location is amazing, but we should also be a bit more on the realistic side that we'll never get to a 0 point. And we don't have a position to argue with 0 because of national security. And if you take a look at the long-term plans, even for LMCR, they don't eliminate, they just recycle the sole usage of it to be able to provide ferry opportunities. Not ferry, cargo.
Yeah, thank you. Because with the last mile solutions we talked about last month. And Carrie?
And I thought that I had read that the city council measure failed because of federal law trumping city council law. So that proposal was actually shot down.
Yes, so thank you both for illuminating that. Transportation in our district.
I think for Carrie and I, it's a more of I'm sorry.
Well, no, it's always good to have the most up-to-date information. That's why I pull the most recent tweets to see what's out there.
Yeah, I'm a
It's just our
private pilot, so I
conversations.
get the FAA, I get the circulars.
See, now you're going to get the hate mail, Carrie. Okay, this is in response to, I've been getting a lot of requests and things from people with wanting to put all kinds of traffic signals, other activity, because there is a great response to how crazy our roads have gotten, how unsafe for pedestrians. So in response, I wanted to let people know that I have not forgotten. However, what I'd like to do is take on, and I'm looking for some input in general from people, it would be all of the intersections are underneath and around the Brooklyn Bridge at Pearl Street. And so I pulled this, and in fact, the next one you can see there have been a number of crashes on both sides of the street. So whether you go north or south of the bridge, the intersections have problems. And in fact, this one, there are 2 different circles, and I don't know why they seem imposed on top of each other. But nevertheless, the numbers of crashes are quite high. So something does need to be done, but I want a more holistic resolution to look at all of the safety concerns. So we'll call in Rosa as well, because I know that's her mugging staircase she's concerned about as well on that road. But the sidewalks are also closed, which is a real challenge for people like myself who have to, well, every pedestrian is kind of forced out into the roadway, but people in wheelchairs are especially forced out, as are people with strollers, because they can't walk sideways.
We should share that the grant or funds that were just awarded around the Park Row Alliance in the neighborhood, sort of over around there with that staircase and other things for improvements and money given to DOT, which we can do next month if you want.
That would be great, because I've heard about that from Rosa. So if you're ready to announce something, by all means do, otherwise next month to get some presentation. And I decided to make this part of a bigger conversation about Pearl Street around the Brooklyn Bridge. So Eric, I have not forgotten you, and there are some other people who've also written. Anything you can contribute about the problems that there are, that's all gonna be part of setting up this resolution. So thank you, all of you eyes on the street people. And is there any other slide? That probably is the last one, Jess. Thank you. Then if there are any other comments some people like to make to close out the meeting? Yeah, Eric, please.
Yeah, look, Betty, thank you for bringing that up. With Pearl Street, and Rosa will corroborate, and you've all heard her. It's perpetual construction. That's a separate issue. And for me, I'm not looking for anything like grandiose, because since they have that construction project and the contractor for the Brooklyn Bridge, they have all that real estate. And that it seems to be perpetual. So because you saw my response, the response I got from the DOT. Well, I got another one. They gave me a generic response about, oh, we're going to do this for bicycles and pedestrian safety, but they can't do anything until the construction is done. And then I'd like to see if we can get something while construction is happening, because that's going to be for the next 10 years or even longer. Something to either get them to give us back part of the sidewalk on Pearl Street, and also just to put some road markings at Pearl Street, and also some lights, just so that drivers and cyclists can see that pedestrians are crossing. It doesn't need to be super permanent. I know that's not a word, but it's just something to make things better while not waiting for the contractor to be done. And they won't be done for like 5 to 10 years. That's what I'm hoping to get done.
Yeah, no, you are correct. And my intention was not something long-term solutions.
Yep.
But if you would put your 3 comments, because those, if you turn them around a little bit, you cited 3 different problems that need to be dealt with. Send it to me an email, because that's sort of part of the conversation of collecting the things that need to really be fixed, even in the very short term.
Okay.
Because they are real safety concerns. And if you can give roadways, at particular intersections, or this stretch between this intersection, if there's a particular location that's problematic, include that as well.
Okay.
Thank you all. So I don't see any other hands up. So
Me.
Oh, by all means.
I have one thing, and I don't know where it falls, whether it's land use, environmental, transportation, but I definitely want to start to have a dialogue that includes, obviously, everyone about bollards and about the use of bollards, and the fact that much like we can do interim flood measures, we can do interim safety measures. We can take a look, if bollards are going to be a long-term thing, to have our city covered in silver bollards for security by every private developer, versus thinking outside the design box, whether it's to decorate the exterior, I'm not, the decorator, or it's to find a way to embed them into landscaping to improve the public realm. We should be having a discussion with DOT and high level security experts of how to take the obviously number one choice of bollards that corporations and counterterrorism and have it end up to a position in place that we can really do something better for the community. Because bollards are not beautiful, they are functional, that's great, but they don't actually do very much in terms of climate change, in terms of making a city more walkable, more livable, or any of those things that go with the goals of what we want for a city. It basically is a 20th century version of a moat, for lack of anything better. So I'd like to see something that we could do better.
Thank you. Although I have to tell you that I would prefer bollards to having curbs, but that's just me, since I can't climb curbs.
Oh,
But
I
also
agree with you. I mean, if you look at Europe, though, Europe manages to have like slopes and all kinds of really interesting architecture that makes life livable, possible, and plausible that we don't consider.
Yes, no, and I saw a tweet with a picture by the World Bollard Association. I thought, this is Tammy's nightmare. And I have to send you a picture of that because
Betty,
it was your nightmare. Yes, Mitch.
okay, I actually just found from a few years ago the article from the Bangkok Post, which I just emailed to you, and
Thank you.
it was well, just for the other, you'll read it, but it's Dow Chemical of Thailand was partnering with another group to use recycled plastic waste mixed with cement to build new sustainable modern roads, and it was the study had it about 15 to 30% more stable than asphalt concrete and more resistance to water erosion. And you know, if anybody's interested, but I just sent it to you personally on your email, Betty.
Great, thank you. I will send some of these things to people who are interested after hearing them. You can see the
Well,
Bollards
read it first and
craziness.
see
You
if
can
you
see
know.
there.
Yeah.
Well,
but,
people can ignore a link or an email. It's easy.
Okay, but it's being used already, and especially in rural areas, it seems to be helping, and it's a great way to you know, good use of the plastic.
Yeah, so we'll let environmental take that up. And Detta and Cody, I see your hands went down. Have you changed your mind?
I didn't know I raised my hand. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Okay, then I guess that is everything tonight, and thank you all. See you next month, since we got to kick off 2023. Take care.
New Year.
Oh, I was going to say one thing. Judge
Yes.
said, I was just saying that what Tammy said about bollards, I would even challenge the assumption that the current bollards are safe, because I don't know what design specifications they're built to. So just I second her idea that there could be something better.
On that note, thank you for everybody's hard work. Is this one of the toughest committees for a community board? I don't. It is not lost on me, the work that you do, and I appreciate every day that you're willing to have the arguments here, the discussions here, come to some majority and bring it forward. So thank you. And Happy New Year, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care. And on Edge, that's the end.
Right?
Okay,
Thank y'all.
thank you.